welcome to Well Rounded Momma's YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us. If you find this video helpful, like, subscribe, ring the bell. I remember when that was really difficult for us to say, and we were so nervous and scared. And now we're like, it's old hat. We're such professionals. My name is Sherry. This is Tiffany. We are home birth midwives in the Las Vegas area. And this week we want to talk a little bit about miscarriages. Tiffany, what would be things that would be signs that someone should be on the lookout for a miscarriage?
Well, if they've had a previous one, and if they have bleeding early on in pregnancy, if they have really bad cramping early on in pregnancy. And sometimes I think it's just if you're worried about something, just like it doesn't hurt to go get checked and make sure everything's okay.
I think that's one of the really hard things with miscarrying. There's not, those things can be variations of normal too.
Yes,
you can have implantation spotting, you can have cramping because your uterus is growing.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really hard when we have clients call because they're like, I'm having these symptoms, and I'm like, it could be or it couldn't be. But I think like what Tiffany's saying, reaching out to your care provider, especially for us midwives, we really like staying in contact. We like hearing when you have taken a positive pregnancy test. We get excited about that kind of stuff for you and, want to be there. If somebody was worried about that they were experiencing a miscarriage, what would you say would be some steps that they can do to reassure themselves?
An ultrasound first. An ultrasound and doing labs, checking HCG, checking progesterone. Those two are the main thing to find out for sure. Sometimes they can't see a sac and everything really, really early on, so an ultrasound doesn't always give you everything that you need to know, but labs for sure would give you that. If your HCG is going up, it's supposed to double every 2 days, so that's a good sign that things are normal, but that sometimes will give you the peace of mind.
Whatever you need to have that peace of mind, because if you're not enjoying your pregnancy and you're worried and you're stressed, that plays its own kind of role. If I have a client who goes, you know what, I'm going to wait this through. I'm spotting a little bit, I'm cramping a little bit. If for them, their peace of mind is just waiting, then that should be what they do. If it's having labs done, then that's what you should do. If it's going in for an ultrasound, that's what you should do. And I think, making sure that you have a group of support persons, if that's not your midwife, whether it's your partner or friends that are understanding, people that can talk to you so that you don't feel alone. Tiffany, once you've had somebody who is experiencing a miscarriage, what kind of things can they do to seek support?
Well, having a care provider that is going to be there for you, but there's lots of different support groups. And that's one of the things that is heart-wrenching for us as care providers is when people have miscarriages and they say, oh, well, I was only this far along, or I was only this far along. You were still anticipating a baby. You still were planning that. You still, even if it was a surprise, you still were pregnant. And it's okay to grieve that. And it's okay to voice that. And I feel like we live in a society that they think it's just based on how far along you were is when it counts. Everyone counts. Every pregnancy counts. And to have that reassurance and have somebody to talk to, whether it's 12 weeks, whether it's 6 weeks, whether it's 40 weeks, you still need that support, and having that support is really important.
I agree. When I talk to individuals that come on and we're doing like a medical history and we're talking about past pregnancies, you have a GP, right? And you have this number after a G and this number after a P. So it's gravida, para. And gravida is how many times you've been pregnant. Para is how many live births that you've had. So how many living children that you've birthed. And I always like talking to women about their histories, especially when there's been loss, because that becomes a part of your story and a part of your history. And so I think as midwives, I do really appreciate that, because I think there's a lot of taboo when it comes to miscarry, and people are almost embarrassed.
They don't want to talk about it.
And they don't want to talk about it. Because I have a lot of individuals who are like, well, we're not telling anyone yet until we get out of our first trimester. Or
so sad.
Whereas I think part of that healing process is being able to talk about something.
Well, letting people know. Yeah.
So
you don't have to
love
go
on you.
You don't have to go shout things to the world that you don't want to share, but just letting people share in your grief. If your partner passed away, you would say that. You would tell people because you wanted them to share in your grief, the people that care about you.
I think it's one of the things that really changed here. Shayna is my daughter-in-law, and she runs our front desk. And she had experienced some pregnancy losses, and she didn't say anything for a long time about it, but then decided to become vocal. And I think October came around, and that's Pregnancy Loss Awareness Month, and she started talking about it on her Facebook, and it was really cool to see how many individuals started reaching out to her saying, I've experienced the same thing, or this is my story, or this is... And what a blessing that became for her to find kind of this group of individuals who felt the way she felt, who experienced ideas. And everybody's loss obviously affects them differently, but you know, I thought that was a really cool thing to witness.
Well, and you telling your story gives somebody else a voice. Then maybe you don't know if that person sitting next to you has suffered whatever loss it is. If you share your story, then they are more likely to be able to voice their own and not be afraid.
So on a physical side, once an individual knows that the pregnancy is not viable, there are some options, and we would say the same thing, that whatever you need to heal is going to be the best thing for you. If you're going to wait for your body to go into labor on its own, if you want to schedule a D&C with a physician or at a hospital, sometimes they will even send you home with medication that can induce that to happen. And so again, there's not like a wrong answer with that. It's what you need to process. Because some individuals will come to me like, you know what, Sherry, I just need this to be done so that I can start the healing process. And some people want to kind of see the pregnancy through and let their body go into the labor on their own. The only time that we would ever really be concerned is A, if you ran a fever, B, if you were filling a pad with blood in less than an hour. Those are two things that you would absolutely want to go to the hospital for. But besides that, kind of allowing your body to have that time. I have a huge history of miscarriages, which later in my life I learned I had MTHFR. Looking back on that, going into labor and being able to see those pregnancies on my own was something that I needed to go through and that I needed to process, and that I feel like that was part of my healing to do that. But I've certainly had lots of individuals where they did something different and that's what they needed. So on our end as midwives, there's no judgment or opinion about what individuals need when it becomes to loss.
Just supporting.
Any other final comments?
I don't know. I think that's kind of a heavy thing, and it's a worry that every woman that gets pregnant, that's the first thing that pops in your head. But just seeking out support and knowing it's okay to feel that way and it's okay to worry. Those are normal things. But just having support is huge. And being able to grieve something is important.
I agree. My final thought would be I think most individuals think they did something to cause it. And so my final message would be you did nothing to bring that on. Whether you went to the gym, you went on a vacation, you had sex, you drank raspberry tea, you were breastfeeding another child. There was nothing that you did that actually caused that miscarriage. And so I know as individuals we like owning things that happen to us, which in some circumstances is great. This is one of them where you actually don't have to. So that would be my final thought is there's nothing you can do. Even when we say to somebody, go home, put your feet up, relax, it's still statistically, it doesn't change anything. It's just some individuals want to proactively be doing something that makes them feel like they're doing something for their pregnancy. But even if you did not go home and put your feet up, it would have probably happened anyways. So we hope that all of you are staying safe and well, and it was good to see you, and we look forward to seeing you next week. If you found this video helpful, like, subscribe, ring the bell. If you know of somebody who could use this video so that they could have some answers for their own, please feel free to share it, and have a wonderful day. You like my hair?
Yes, it's beautiful.
It's so great. It's gonna be different on Saturday.